When the script's locked off, then I look through it and I mark it off. It's a different stage in the process for me. When it's locked off, then I can go into visualising. I can't visualise and think script. They're two completely different processes. One's an intellectual, one's a visceral. Here I've got page 7 of the script, scene 10, 11, 12. It was in many ways an extremely technical exercise. Hopefully that didn't show. The blue markings are when the screen are in vision, because tapes, there's faintly marked Chris in here, which is the editor. So Chris, the editor, had to prepare tapes in order to be shown in the back of Pasco's head. Whenever we shot across the two of them, we had to have the tape available. The yellow are graphics, are written live because the graphics were on the desk in the studio. Charisma is the machine that generated them, and it was state of the art. The page folding back was the newest gimmick that the BBC desk had, and they were about to use it in the Top of the Pop studio. The red marking on page 8 is the special effects or any vis effects. I made notes and thumbnail drawings to remind me of the styles that I was using at any particular time, and also to remind me of what I actually needed in the frame, but keeping true to the styles. So there were handheld, which Chris operated, and then studio. I had to just make sure I knew what was in frame at any one time. Page 23, this is part of the film where Tunstall appears in the curtain and Pasco and Michael Parkinson can't see him. Again, we use the video wall. We have graphics, green graphics for the caption, July the 12th, 1992, which was when the footage was supposedly gathered by Pasco. Effects notes and back to the wall. The pen, the light pen, was actually put in post-production. And on the other side, I have, again, notes of which cameras we're on. This is Pipes, also known as Tunstall, or Raymond Tunstall. With all his glorious makeup by Caroline Noble, all the scratches, all the horrible red bits were done by Caroline, and on the girls as well as Tunstall. We never see him like this in the film, ever. We hardly see him. We're working on the basis that fear is about things you don't know. And when you see it, it becomes less frightening. So we never did see him in this form. But here he is in his at his worst. Page 49. I've made a note to myself with the yellow. It's actually voiceover, so I know when I have to gather the voice from studio, but it doesn't show. The blue is the screen alive and should be shown. The pink is when the water gushes out of the tap, which is a vis effects, which they set up with pipes and so that it would spurt out when we needed it. Then we went on to a phone-in, which included the map, which was graphics that had to be prepared before the time. And on the desk, we had the little flashing star, so we knew which place it was. And we had our phone booth around the back of the studio so that Parkinson could interact in a live way with the phone-in. On the left-hand page, I have my thumbnail sketches. I've got my handheld, Studio 2 shot, remote on the kitchen, which is the small cameras that was installed in every room, back to handheld, back into the phone-in studio, and then onto the screen, which was piped in through the video wall into the 2 shot. So at each point, I know what I'm getting. Here you can see from the schedule, we started 4th of July. 6th of July was rehearsals, shoot for 3 weeks in the house. The weekends were off because of children, and then back into the studio for the last week and a half. The working title for the project was Noddies. We wanted a working title that was anonymous, didn't give away what we were working on. Stephen came up with the idea of Noddies, and Noddies is a term used which refers to when you're interviewing someone and that you finish with the subject matter, you turn round and you shoot the interviewer nodding away which you can cut into the interview at any time. And so that's how we came up with the working title, Noddies. Here we have the floor plan of the house. The designer drew up the floor plan for me to choreograph my shots. First floor, and here's ground floor. It's useful to work out where we were going to position the remote cameras, and it just helps me visualise the piece. We also had to work out a few special effects because the picture jumps off the wall, so we had a drilled hole and poked it off the wall with a stick, and the same hole for when the mirror came off the wall. We were very careful which way the door opened on the fridge, things that we had to work out before the shoot because Kimmy has to hide behind the fridge. These are the newspaper cuttings that were prepared for the show. Obviously the photographs we took and the blurb had to be all cleared. I was very particular that they would look like real newspaper cuttings. There's a tendency for drama paper cuttings to look fake. Often they are blank on one side. We did print on front and back, and we waxed them and folded them and distressed them to hope that they would look real.
Yes, I was quite keen for them to look like really hokey tabloid headlines, so it was fun to come up with the headlines that went with the story, put myself in the position of a Sun journalist. And Lesley also said that some mad people might record this and freeze frame and try and read the articles. So she asked me to compose a couple of paragraphs to open the articles, which was also a little bit of fun.
At the time I made Ghostwatch, I had a nanny for my son, and her mother was a teacher. When the programme had been transmitted and she realised that I'd made it, she started a project because the children wouldn't stop talking about it. They were 8-year-olds. And her project was for them to write to me. And I was inundated with these beautiful letters. And I wrote back and discussed all the effects and tried to demystify it for them. This is a letter written by Lydia Robinson, who is 8 years old, beautifully drawn, beautifully written, beautifully presented. Ghostwatch. I watched Ghostwatch. I saw a ghost behind some curtains. I thought it wasn't real. I said, "Mum, is it real?" And she said, "Of course it's real," and I couldn't believe it. I didn't watch all of it, but I thought most of it was really good. When I finished watching Ghostwatch, I went to bed. I was a bit scared at first, and then I went to sleep.